Hey everyone, it's Dominic, the Primetime Treasure Hunter. Welcome back to another video. You know, they say in life that timing is everything. It's very true. I want to tell you this story about how the Notre Dame Cathedral fire in Paris the other day helped me take a $10 investment in a book that I purchased at the flea market and turn it into a $300 sale on the day of the fire. So let me just step back a moment and take you back to the day a few weeks ago where I actually found the book that we're going to talk about here, which is Notre Dame de Paris, or Notre Dame de Paris, however you want to pronounce it. You could see it here. This is actually a picture of it in my trunk, which I took it in there after I purchased it at the flea market. I'm talking you through this whole big bundle deal. Now I'm going to link to this video at the end of this one. You can see here it's called the first flea market haul of 2019, and I'm going to zoom into the book closer so you could see more of it. I'm going to actually take you to my eBay listing, which is right here, so you could see that this is an actual book set. It comes in a slip cover right there, and there's 2 volumes in it. Now, I found this actually just sitting at the edge of a table, like of a coffee table pretty much, just sitting outside at the flea market. And what I saw at first was just this. I just saw this outer covering, and what drew my attention to it was one, that it was written in French. It said Notre Dame de Paris, and 2, that it was written by this dude right here, Victor Hugo. Now, I like to study history. I like reading. I like reading classic books. And so I knew of the name Victor Hugo. I also took French from the 7th grade until, in fact, throughout the first couple of years of college, first 2 years of college. So I was familiar with Victor Hugo and Notre Dame de Paris, which is the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Now, many of you have heard of the Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's a book that was published in 1831, and it tells the story of, let's see, I'll even scroll down and show you a picture from the movies, because they made a movie about it as well, of Quasimodo. He worked in the bell tower at the cathedral, and he fell in love with a woman named Esmeralda, which is great for me to hear, because one of the biggest supporters of this channel is Thrifty Esmeralda. So go follow Thrifty Esmeralda at her YouTube channel. I'm going to link to that in my description section in honor of this sale, and the name Thrifty Esmeralda showing up. It's good fortune, so thank you, Esme, for all of your support. So anyway, so these things, when I initially saw it, kind of cued me in to look into the book a little bit more, and it led me to think, you know, in English, they call it the Hunchback of Notre Dame, but in French, it's Notre Dame de Paris. Now, I am convinced that if this book had said on the outside, the Hunchback of Notre Dame, there's no way that it would still be sitting there. And turns out that when I open it up, that you'll see here, it was published in 1930, and it was published in France. So that was interesting. Actually published in Paris. So as you can see here, this is a translated version. The book is not actually in French. It's translated into English from French. Now, the original Notre Dame de Paris book was actually published in 1831. So this being 1930, it's about 100 years after the book was originally published. But you'll see here, it says that it was published for the members of the Limited Editions Club. So that was something else that sparked my interest, that's limited edition. And if you look on the outside, now it's going to be a little bit tricky for you to see this because it is faint, but on the outside of the book, let me get to the actual picture here, on the slipcover, what you're going to see, and you might have to pause it and zoom in on it, but you could see right under the words de Paris, you're going to see very faintly, it says 910. And what that number signifies is that that is the 910th of 1,500 of these sets that were ever made. The other thing that you'll find that's interesting about this is that does have a little bit of like a shiny covering here, and it's called glassine. It's a glassine French covering. It's a kind of like a waxy covering that helps protect the books. And these books were very well protected. These books are in mint condition. The slip cover is not damaged at all. You can see here's more of a close-up of the slip cover. I mean, it's really in good shape. I mean, there's like a little indentation there, but I mean, really not much. I mean, it's in remarkable shape considering the age of it. So the other thing that you'll see in here are these what they call woodcut inscriptions, and these were made by a famous artist named Franz Masereel. Franz Masereel died in 1972, and people love his art. He made this art out of woodcut inscriptions, and so they were put into the book. So it turns out that the person wanted to sell this book for $20. I wound up getting it for $10, or what I figure is $10, because I actually threw it in. I worked it in as part of a big bulk deal with Mad magazines and some other vintage flying magazines. And so I took it home and I did some more research on it. Now, I knew at the time that I had purchased it that there were signed editions of this book out there going for a lot of money. I mean, when I say going for, I mean asking price. People were asking, you know, $600, $700, $800 or something for a signed version of this book. Now, you're wondering who signed it. Victor Hugo? No, not Victor Hugo. Franz Masereel, the person. In fact, you could actually see his name right here. Woodcut Illustrations by Franz Masereel. So I looked in the book when I was there and I couldn't find the signature, and I opened it up. You would think the signature would be on the first page. That's normally where these signatures are. And there's no signature here. There's no signature on the page to the left. There's no signature on the book flap. I can't find it. I'm looking through the book. I can't find anything. So I go home. I start doing some more research on it, and I see that there are some other people, like this person here has it for $300. He has number 742. So I'm looking through it and I'm trying to find an example of what the signed page looks like. So I start scrolling through, and sure enough, right over here, you could see in that person's book, it says copy number 72, signed by Franz Masereel. And I'm like, where is this thing? I'm looking all over, right? So I take out the first volume, I look through all the pages, I cannot find it. Finally, I get to the second volume. So I pull out the second volume, I flip all the way to the back, and what do I find but copy number 910 right there, signed by Franz Masereel. I close the book. I run up the stairs. Mrs. Primetime is just chilling out. I bust into the room. I show her. I'm like, I got one of the signed versions. I was so excited. She was pumped up. So now it really came down to, what should I price it for? And so, I did some comps research on it. And what I saw here, and let's see, we'll scroll down a little bit. I saw that there are a lot of other versions of it out there. There was a 1931 that was blue on the outside, signed, but not exactly one that looked like it had the slip cover like I did, except, as I scrolled down, I did find somebody else here who had one that sold for $100. And so I scrolled through it. I looked, I saw that I believe this person also had oh, whoops, I hit sell it now. Sorry, my fault. I meant to hit see the original listing. There we go. So I saw this person also had, I believe, an example of this signature. I thought that $100 was pretty low on it, given what other people had it currently listed for. Let's see, is there a version of the signature here? Oh, that's right. So let me see. There it is. Yep, there it is right there. See? So, and I believe that probably was something that cued me in to look towards the back of the book, because I might have seen this example and said, this looks like it's in the back of one of the books. So that's probably what led me to go back and look at the back of the second volume on this one. So anyway, so this one had sold for $100, and I had found another one that had sold for $200. And the person who sold it for $200, the interesting thing about that person is, and I can't find that example of that listing right now. It doesn't seem to be there. But that one that sold for $200, the person never advertised in the title that it was signed. The person said it was signed in the description, but in the title never said it was signed. Like here, you could say you could see it's prominently advertised that it's signed, but that other person did not. And so I went and I looked and I typed in and I said, all right, what are people currently selling this book for? Right now. And at the time I listed it, this is actually what I saw. There were 3 results. There was one person selling it for $300. There's another person selling it for $687, and another person selling it for $850. Now like I said, I did my comps research. I did my research on Terapeak as well. I could find no evidence that this price was something someone would be willing to pay. The most I saw that someone would be willing to pay would be $200 for this book. I mean, again, this was an asking price. It would be nice, but you got to be realistic when you actually set the prices. So I looked into this one that was priced at $300, a little bit more. And what I found here was that there was some damage to this, unlike mine. I also saw, you could see here, there's some wrinkling of the pages. I mean, my book doesn't have any of this stuff, nothing. So at this point, I made a decision to list the book for $299.99. Now, you might wonder, why didn't I put it for over $300, given that this person had it for $300 and has more damage than mine? The reason being is that there was no comps data for me to indicate that this book could actually generate over $300. So I felt that putting it up to the $300 was fair, given the condition that mine was in, which was in pretty much mint condition, or near mint condition for the actual books. The slipcover, like I advertised, had some wear to it, but the actual books itself inside, these 2 volumes right here, I mean, these babies were mint. There was nothing wrong with them. So I figured that since the prior sales were $100 and $200, that it was justified to put this one up for $299.99, and that would help make it sell, especially if a prospective buyer compared it to to this one right here that was up for $300. This would then seem like a good deal. And so that's how I wound up making the decision. I talk about that a lot, by the way, with the psychology of pricing. People actually feel like they're getting a much better deal paying $299.99 compared to $300, because they still feel like psychologically they're in the twos. Works every time. It's a great pricing strategy to do. Now, some of you have probably seen this already because I've showed it, but I don't care, because you already know that I sold the book for $300. So within hours of this cathedral fire happening, all of a sudden, I get a cha-ching on my phone, and turns out this book sold exactly right there, $299.99. There you could see that is the actual price. There was no best offer submitted. Now, that book, I will tell you, already had 3 watchers prior to the fire. Now, it's possible that this person who bought it may have been somebody who was one of the watchers and just decided, let me go in and grab that before somebody else does. So, people, it seems like at first we're kind of like a little tentative, and we're kind of waiting to see if I would lower the price, but then something just happened in history to prod that person to say, you know what, I better just grab that. And, didn't even want to waste the time of submitting the offer, because, I have 48 hours to decide, and a lot of buyers know that then someone else could sweep in during that time. So that's the whole psychology that goes back and forth between whether or not a buyer is going to take the risk of throwing that offer out there versus just doing a buy it now, which is why I like to do, buy it now and have that as an option for people. So anyway, so it just goes to show you how history and how events in time can lead to a great sale. It could lead to an increase in market demands. It's just a fortunate thing for me that I had that book, and it was only up there for a few days. And just very interesting how that whole thing, how the whole negotiation happened, and just how just the timeliness of this just worked out for that $10 investment to turn into a $300 sale. So someone had asked me, Aaron had asked me if I raised the price once I knew the fire happened. No, I did not. If anyone was curious about that, I did not do that. I just kept the price as it was. I still felt that that was a fair price for the book, even given the current situation. And the interesting thing about that is I think I was proven right about that, because this is the last thing I'll show you here, is that these were the, like I said, these were the books that were available, these three, those were the ones available at the time I made my listing, and they're still available, even this $300 one. I mean, there's people watching it, but the only one that sold for $300 was the one that I had up, and I think it's for all the reasons that I mentioned. So with that being said, if you like this video, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you come to my interview tonight. This is being filmed on Wednesday morning, so on the 17th of April 2019. If you're watching this on a delay, make sure you come by and watch my interview tonight with the Rise and Grind picker. This guy has over 20,000 YouTube subscribers. He specializes in retail arbitrage. So for those of you who don't know, that's going into a store like Walmart or Target and finding things usually on clearance, or finding some kind of deal and purchasing it, sometimes or often in bulk, and then taking it and selling it online for many, many times the value that you purchased it for. So it's a big area, and a lot of people interested in it. We're going to talk a lot about that tonight with Rise and Grind. So make sure you come by. That's 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to set that reminder right there for everybody. So the reminder is on. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. If you found this story interesting, pass it on to others who you think are interested in the whole Notre Dame de Paris story. And this is I just think an interesting segue in terms of how it relates to reselling. So the other thing would be to make sure you come by my Facebook group, the Facebook Reselling Resource Center. Over 8,000 members are in that group. It's incredibly supportive and positive. We have giveaways going on. In fact, we have one going on right now for a whole vintage and retro toy collection. So get in on that ASAP. That is a time-based contest. Whoever guesses something correct first is going to win the prize. So make sure you come in on that. There's just a lot of things going on there. Be on the lookouts every day. Interesting articles get posted, videos, and there's just so much stuff. You've got to come by and check it out if you're not a member. And lastly, make sure you follow me on Instagram. That's @prime_time_treasure. See you back at the next video, everyone. Take care.